My old compressor was a compressor my dad actually got me as a gift, about 10 years old. Used it a lot. It was in my garage for about 10 years. I probably didn't take the best care of it, I'll be completely honest. It was from Harbor Freight. The check valve went bad on it. Long story short, I couldn't get it off, had to destroy the thing to get it. So that's what brought me to this. Now, a lot of my tools that I needed back 10 years ago, I needed a lot more power. So I had an 8-gallon compressor. But when I went to go look for a new compressor, I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna go with a smaller compressor, like a Pancake style. Reason being is I can put this up on a wall, keep it off my floor, in my garage. They're a lot lighter. Not that I really move these things around. And the reason why I don't need a bigger compressor is because, well, battery tools have come such a long way. Like, for example, you know, I used to use it when I would do trim work, you know, but now, I know I should have glasses on, but now you get battery powered nail guns. You get battery powered framing nailers. You know, it kind of got me thinking, I don't know if I really need to get one of those bigger compressors. I want to get a smaller one. So I started looking, and pretty much I would say 99% of the Pancake compressors out there are all the same. This one is in a league of its own. Now this one is 6 gallons, so all the other ones are pretty much 6 gallons-ish. There are some battery-powered ones, like the Walt has one, it's really cool that I looked at. I think that's around 3 gallons, but doesn't have real good reviews. So really what I'm gonna be using this for is maybe for the occasional framing nailer, which we're gonna test that in here, or maybe filling up my truck tires with air. That's kind of the biggest tire I can think of. Okay, and maybe blowing up pool toys, okay? So it's kind of gonna be used, I would say light duty framing. I'm probably not gonna be doing that much framing. Actually now when I do framing, a lot of times I use framing screws. So, you know, but I wanted something that would run a framer, okay? Before I go over the stats and why this thing is in a league of its own, let's talk about, let's kind of like do a little, let's do like a little walk around, all right? So you can see the tank color. This is the motor on top, on and off switch. Okay, it plugs in. It's actually real nice. It's got a really long cable, which is really nice. My last compressor had a very short cable. So this is real nice. It has a long cable. It actually has 2 outputs, okay? 2 fittings here, which is nice. My other one did not have that. Most Pancake compressors I saw these days do have duals, so that's not like anything special here. Here is your gauges on top, and this is how you control your pressure. So you can see there I'm increasing it and decreasing it. This is the, this is like the safe. That's here to hell. The purge, I guess, purge valve, whatever you want to call it. So that'll let your air out when you're done. Now it's a good idea to, whenever you use your compressor, to always drain all of the air because the air has moisture in it, and it can cause moisture to build up in the tank, and then what does moisture and metal do? It rusts. So let's talk about the stats here. So this is a 6-gallon tank. Okay, now the max PSI on this thing is 200 PSI, okay? That's 50 PSI higher than like every other Pancake compressor out there. That's good and everything. Probably aren't gonna use 200 PSI that often. Probably the highest I would go is like, I don't know, 120, maybe not even higher than that. So let's look at the CFM. CFM is a measurement of amount of air that it's pushing, okay? Now this is at 4. The other ones are like 2.5, 2.5, okay? So this is not double, but I mean, pretty close, you know, to almost double. That's a lot more air that this can give, or this can deliver. Now the reason why it can do that, you're probably wondering, well, why can this go up to 200 PSI? Why can it go all the way up to 4, which again is higher than like everyone else out there? I looked at DeWalt, Rigid, all of them. It's because of the horsepower. So if we look at this one is 1.3 horsepower, and I made a little notation for myself. The closest one to that is like 0.08 horsepower. Okay, so it's like DeWalt, Rigid, Ryobi, all the different other brands. They're pretty much around 0.8 horsepower. This is 1.3. Now, the reason why that's important is you have a smaller tank, but with the bigger motor, you're able to keep up with the air demand. So usually if you have the bigger tank and you have a really small, you could put a really small, I mean, in theory, you could put a tiny little motor on there and hold a bunch of air and then run a tool forever. You know, this is kind of the happy medium. This is a kind of a bigger motor on like a little tank. So as the air is being pulled out of this, this can put the air back into it with the 1.3 horsepower engine. Now this is all in theory. This is brand new, as you can see. But what I want to do is I want to kind of just use it. And let's use it with the nailer. Let's use 2 tools at once. Let's see if it can run 2 tools at once. I ran an entire sleeve of nails. You can see maybe it ran for about 10 seconds to reset itself. So now let's look at maybe like some trim screws, or I'm sorry, some trim nailers. This is the biggest trim nailer that I have. Max is 110. We'll turn it up all the way to 110, why not? These are like 2-inch trim nails. Once again, I went through an entire sleeve. It ran, and then what I noticed too is even after it's recharging itself, after it starts to kick on, it still has enough power, even with the framer, to keep driving nails. So I think it would keep up with someone on a framing crew. I mean, I don't know, you know, if you are, you obviously are a professional, and you're probably not gonna be watching this video anyway. One thing I kind of wanted to see, since it does have two, I got 2 nail guns. So who doesn't love double guns? Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this. I am a trained professional, but I want to see if I can drive both at the same time. I'm going to pull the trigger. Okay, that was cool, but it definitely drove 2 nails at the same time. I don't see an issue with it. Where's my money? All right, cool. I mean, this thing's cool. I don't really see an issue with it. It does work. It will fill up a tire on a truck. I don't see any issues with that. So as far as like a kind of a homeowner's compressor, especially these days with the electric, probably yelling, with the electric tools that we have out there, battery powered, has come a really long way. I think this is a pretty good solution for most people, and even maybe the avid DIYer. I'm an avid DIYer, hence the family DIY TV channel. I don't think I'm gonna out capacity this. I'm not gonna basically need any more capacity than what this gives me. I'm gonna basically be able to put this on a shelf. Now the weight, I think they said it's around 50 pounds. Maybe it's around that. You know, I'm not moving this thing around, so I'm not really worried about weight. One thing that people did complain about online was the sound. Now that kind of makes sense, right? It's a 1.3 horsepower. It's the most horsepower, highest horsepower Pancake compressor out there. So it's probably gonna make a little bit of noise. But all compressors make noise. I've never been around a compressor and been like, oh wow, look how quiet it is. I mean, you know, I think it's loud, I'll be completely honest. But is that gonna keep me from getting a compressor? No, but that could be a consideration. There is a decibel level on all of these compressors. So if you want, you can always sort by the lowest decibel one, but most likely that will be the least powerful compressor, okay? Now, price-wise, this was not the cheapest compressor. I paid actually $200 for this. It was on sale. It's normally $250. So when you look at it that way, you can get a compressor with the stats that are half of this, but it's still a Pancake compressor. So if to a layman that would look kind of the same, you'd be like, oh, it's the same compressor for like $100. And sometimes you get them on sale, like if you look at the Cobalt ones and things like that. So you are paying a premium for this. I will put a link to this down below. If you're gonna get a compressor, I'd really not recommend something like this. I'll put a link to this. I know YouTube has this new shopping feature where I can put links to like Home Depot, that's where this came from. So I'll put a link to this. I'll try to put it on the screen right now. As well as this nail gun. Now we're talking about compressors, but this is a battery powered Ryobi nail gun. I know it's Ryobi, I know you guys can't stand the color. This thing is awesome as well. I'll put a link to this one as well, as I'm trying to figure out this YouTube shopping thing. I would give this thing A+. I love it. I don't have any issues with it. I'm very happy with it. It takes up less space in my garage. If I need to take it somewhere, it's smaller. It's got a big carrying handle, so it's not super heavy, not super light. By Metabo, this is the tank. I'm Mike, and I'm Air Compressor out.